Well, today we're really getting into the story of an empire built on, well, intense heat, rigid discipline, and one man's massive ego.
Yeah, we're talking about Bikram Choudhury.
Exactly.
Wow.
The founder of Bikram Yoga. We're going to trace his incredible rise to fame, how he made this huge fortune, and then
Yeah.
the collapse, the lawsuits, the allegations, him basically becoming a fugitive.
That's absolutely right. And our job today really is to dig deeper than just the headlines you might have seen. We're pulling together news reports, findings from documentaries, court records, trying to piece together the whole story.
Chronologically, right?
Yeah, chronologically, looking at his background, his character, how the whole business machine worked, the conflict, the abuse, and how it all imploded. It's got some pretty surprising twists.
It really does. I mean, some of the details are just astonishing, like his origin story versus reality, and then later, investigators hunting down hidden Rolls-Royces. It's wild.
It is.
So let's jump in. Let's start with the man himself, Bikram Choudhury. Okay, so he was born in Calcutta, British India, 1944. But right from the start, his life story seems less like fact and more like, well, marketing. He was a master myth maker about himself.
Oh, completely. An architect of his own legend. If you listen to him, you'd think his life was this grand adventure where he was like the hero saving half the American establishment.
And these stories were key to selling his brand, especially in the West.
Totally key.
Yeah.
He claimed he started yoga when he was just 5 years old, said he won the National India Yoga Championship 3 years running as a teenager, which, would be incredible if it were true.
And the name-dropping was just relentless, coaching Elvis Presley.
Saving Richard Nixon from needing a leg amputation.
Okay, wait. That Nixon one always gets me. A yoga guru, supposedly stepping in to prevent surgery for a U.S. president. How did he manage to sell that image, part spiritual teacher, part miracle worker?
It was pure theater. And it worked because it tapped into that American thing, fascination with Eastern spirituality mixed with celebrity culture.
Right.
And it wasn't just Elvis and Nixon. He threw in the Beatles, claimed he cured Janet Reno's Parkinson's, even NASA astronauts.
Wow.
The list was designed to make him seem absolutely legitimate, like unquestionably the master of this practice.
But if you actually try and check these things, the whole story kind of falls apart, doesn't it? What's the real story of his early life?
Well, it shows he definitely had physical training, but it wasn't quite ancient yogic wisdom from age 5. He actually started training with a guy named Vishnu Charan Ghosh around 1962. Bikram would have been about 18 then.
Not 5.
No. And crucially, Ghosh's focus, initially at least, was pretty practical. Bodybuilding, massage techniques, not exactly grooming a spiritual guru.
Okay, so what about the championship titles? The 3 consecutive wins.
Pure fiction. Just a credential invented for an American audience who would know any better. The truth is, the very first national yoga competition in India wasn't held until 1974.
And by then?
By then, Choudhury had already left India. So, impossible for him to have won anything like that as a teenager. His whole origin story, the foundation of his authority, built on things that just weren't true.
So that brings us to him coming to America in the 70s. And the sources suggest his start here was kind of accidental almost, but it connects to that image he later became famous for.
Yeah, his path wasn't direct. He came via Japan, apparently struggled a bit at first. One story suggests that early on, maybe in Hawaii, he worked as a male masseur.
Okay.
And that job apparently required him to wear, well, very little, like just underwear or a small Speedo. And that's supposedly where the seed of his unique look was planted.
So the Speedo wasn't some kind of spiritual statement initially. It was just work clothes.
Possibly. That's one narrative. And the Elvis connection sort of fits in here, too. Well, the story goes he started mixing massage with specific stretches, breathing exercises he'd learned from Ghosh. People with pain or mobility issues apparently found it really helpful. And Elvis, or someone working for him, was maybe one of those clients seeking relief. That's how the myth could start taking something practical and spinning it into a dramatic, life-saving encounter.
Right, magnifying it. And the Nixon story sounds like a similar pattern, exaggerating a therapeutic session.
Exactly. The tale is Nixon's in Hawaii, suffering from arthritis, doctors talking surgery. Bikram claims he does these intense massages, manipulations, cures him so well, Nixon forgets which leg was bad.
Wow.
And he implies that success led directly to him getting invited to the U.S., getting his visa sorted.
Incredible how he spun these anecdotes into, like, official validation. So he lands in L.A., 70s, sets up in a basement near Beverly Hills. And this is where he really packages the product.
Yeah, he takes what he learned from Ghosh, various hatha yoga poses, and standardizes it. He creates the fixed 90-minute routine, 26 postures, 2 breathing exercises. He didn't invent the poses themselves, but the specific sequence and, crucially, the setting.
The setting being the heat. That became his absolute signature, didn't it?
The heat is the defining thing. Totally strategic. He cranks the room up to 104 Fahrenheit, 40 Celsius.
Sure.
His line was always that it mimicked the climate in Kolkata, helped you stretch deeper, detoxify.
But the sources suggest maybe a more practical reason linked to his past.
Well, think about it. He needed something to make him stand out in Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
And given that background, maybe a massage where minimal clothing was the norm. Extreme heat gives you the perfect excuse for instructors and students to wear very little.
Oh, okay.
He marketed it as, softening muscles, preventing injury, allowing more flexibility. But it also created this incredibly visual brand. The guru in the Speedo, the sweating celebrities, the promise of quick physical change.
It definitely created a buzz, perfectly aimed at the Hollywood crowd.
He was brilliant at targeting them. Shirley MacLaine, Quincy Jones, Raquel Welch were early on. Later, Michael Jackson, Barbra Streisand. And his whole image, the Speedo, the ponytail, the aggressive confidence it was, as one source put it, comically at odds with the usual serene yogi vibe.
He wasn't selling asceticism.
No. He was selling fitness, spectacle, results, and luxury. He lived the life his clients wanted, amassed this huge fortune, reportedly $75 million, became famous for his materialism, that fleet of 43 luxury cars, Rolls-Royces, Bentleys.
He didn't look like a guru, he looked like a kingpin.
And that contrast was part of the appeal, I think. He was basically saying his yoga leads to success, extreme wealth. It didn't require giving things up. He was the opposite of the humble guru, and that made him totally unique in America.
So the real genius maybe wasn't the poses themselves, but how he monetized the whole structure. It wasn't just about dropping classes. The core business became these teacher training sessions, the TTs.
Oh, the TTs were absolutely the engine. That's where the serious money and control came from. He ran them twice a year, these super intense 9-week gatherings, often held in really isolated places, like remote hotels or resorts.
That isolation feels deliberate.
It seems like a psychological tool, yeah. And the cost to even get in was huge, designed to make sure only the really committed or maybe the wealthy could do it.
How much are we talking?
Started around $10,000 or 10,000 pounds overseas. But later on, reports suggest those fees just kept climbing, maybe even close to $100,000 for one 9-week session in some cases.
Wow. Okay, let's just think about that. If he's got, say, 400 students per session, twice a year, at 10 grand or more each. That's millions, tens of millions coming in regularly.
It's an incredible cash flow. And that huge upfront investment immediately created dependence. Once you'd spent that kind of money and 9 weeks of sheer hell, basically.
Your whole future in yoga was tied to him.
Completely. Your ability to open a licensed studio, make your money back, have a career. It all came down to Bikram's personal okay, his blessing, his ongoing support.
Which helps explain why people put up with his teaching style. It wasn't just tough love, was it? The descriptions are pretty shocking.
No, he was famously rude, crude, insulting. And he framed it as necessary, part of the process. Students remember him yelling things like, "Suck that fat stomach in, I don't like to see the jiggle jiggle."
Targeting people based on their bodies.
Yeah, or their perceived ability. Jacob Schanzer, a former student, said this wasn't occasional, it was just how he taught. Abusive, abrasive.
And those weird personal rules like hating the color green, banning it.
Yeah, the green thing is legendary. Banned it completely from the trainings. These arbitrary rules, they kind of normalize obedience, don't they? Reinforce that his word is absolute law, even if it makes no sense.
It sounds less like teaching and more like breaking people down. The sources talk about the atmosphere going beyond just devotion.
Yeah, moving from like religion towards near fanatic cultishness, and the psychology is important here. People often came to his yoga when they were vulnerable.
Right, at their most break-in, as one source said.
Exactly. Looking for healing, physical pain, emotional trauma, spiritual searching. Val Schuyler Robinson, who owned a studio, mentioned how Bikram had this way of making you feel he saw potential in you. He offered a solution, a cure, even a path to making money.
So he's offering salvation, basically, and in return demands total loyalty, making excuses for his behavior.
Pretty much. Once you're that invested, financially and emotionally, you start rationalizing the swearing, the racism, the homophobia as just Bikram being Bikram, the eccentric genius, right?
Because questioning him means questioning your own massive investment, your path, your future career.
Exactly. It's a powerful trap.
And this need for control led him to fight really hard to protect his method commercially, not just the name Bikram Yoga, but the actual sequence of poses.
Yeah, that's the crucial part. He tried to copyright the specific sequence, the 26 postures, the 2 breathing exercises, in that order. He sued anyone teaching it without paying him royalties, even people he'd known, like Raquel Welch apparently, when she wanted to use the sequence in her own book.
But legally, that's fascinating. Can you actually own a sequence of movements? He didn't invent the poses themselves.
Right, it's like trying to copyright doing 5 push-ups, then 6 squats, then 7 lunges. His lawyers argued the specific selection and ordered the 90-minute choreography was an original work you could copyright.
And how did that huge legal fight turn out?
He lost. Big time. In 2012, a federal judge in California basically threw it out. The ruling was clear. You can't copyright a series of functional physical movements, even in a specific order, for fitness.
That must have been a massive blow, because it meant competitors, like that studio yoga to the people he was trying to crush.
Exactly. They and anyone else could now legally teach the exact same 26-pose sequence without paying him a cent in license fees.
So the value of the Bikram yoga brand itself took a huge hit.
Definitely. It forced him to rely even more on those super expensive teacher trainings, the very environments that were already isolated and where his abusive behavior was reportedly escalating to keep the money flowing. That legal defeat really kind of set the stage for what came next.
Okay, so the teacher trainings become even more critical for revenue, and we need to understand what daily life was like for students there, because it sounds like it was designed to just wear you down, physically and mentally.
Oh, it was intentionally brutal. You're doing 2 intense 90-minute hot yoga sessions every single day in that 104-degree heat. The physical toll alone is immense.
And in between.
Intense rote learning. They had to memorize like 45 pages of dialogue, plus anatomy lectures, spiritual talks. You were just constantly immersed, high stress.
And Bikram himself is presiding over this, sometimes literally from a throne.
Yeah, that's what people described. For the evening class, he'd often teach from this raised chair, almost like a throne. And you'd have attendants, often students themselves, fawning over him, massaging his legs, brushing his hair sometimes.
Wow. That visual just screams power imbalance.
Totally. Reinforces his godlike status. And the exhaustion was amplified even during downtime.
So
Evenings weren't for rest. They often involved compulsory stuff, especially watching these long Bollywood movies, sometimes going until 2 or 3 in the morning.
And you weren't allowed to sleep.
No. If you nodded off, someone would wake you up, and then you had to be up for the 8 a.m. class just a few hours later. So chronic sleep deprivation was built into the system.
What did all that do to people? That combination of physical exhaustion, sleep deprivation, the heat?
It created this state of extreme emotional vulnerability. Physical breakdown, too. People reported vomiting, fainting, just weeping during the morning sessions. And when you're that exhausted, plus you've spent all that money, and you're cut off from the outside world, you become incredibly suggestible, highly susceptible to his authority.
And susceptible, tragically, to his abuse. His behavior on the podium went way beyond just being rude, didn't it? Openly anti-Semitic, homophobic, racist.
Yeah, the comments were vile, deeply misogynistic stuff, targeting women in class, like asking crudely about tampons. And then the Pandora Williams incident in 2011, that really blew up.
That was the homophobic rant.
Yeah, he went on this tirade about how gay people should be quarantined and left to die of AIDS. Just horrific stuff.
And Williams challenged him on it, tried to appeal to the idea of yoga being about love.
She did. And his response, according to her lawsuit, was instant. "We don't sell love here, BH." Then he allegedly told an assistant, "Get that black BH out of here. She's a cancer."
Oh, God.
She was kicked out, no refund on her almost $11,000 fee. That led to the racial discrimination lawsuit. And there were other claims, too, like him saying flat out, "Blacks don't get my yoga."
This pattern of verbal abuse, it kind of normalized his awfulness, didn't it?
Yeah.
Making the next step, the sexual abuse allegations, seem almost inevitable in that environment.
The sources definitely describe this cult-like atmosphere, where his inner circle, his staff, allegedly even helped him target young women. He had this pattern, right? Inviting favorites to watch movies privately, asking for private massages in his hotel suite.
Creating situations where young women needing his approval for their careers were isolated with him.
Exactly. Completely vulnerable. And the specific allegations of rape and sexual assault really started coming out publicly around 2013.
What were some of the key claims that began to shift public perception?
They were devastatingly serious. Jill Lawler sued, alleging he sexually assaulted her when she was just 18. Sarah Bond alleged assault during a training back in 2008. And her account included this really manipulative stuff.
What kind of manipulation?
She claimed he pleaded with her, saying things like, "I am dying. I can feel myself dying. I will not be alive if someone doesn't save me." using his guru status in this incredibly predatory way.
And there are others too, right? Maggie Genthner, alleged rape, a young Indian student.
Yeah, Gentner's claim was horrifying, alleging rape twice, even forcing her legs into yoga poses during the assault. The young Indian student described being a huge fan, then being cornered by him in a changing room, him groping her violently. She only got away because a staff member walked in.
The sheer volume and consistency of these stories, it paints a really clear picture. He must have felt completely untouchable.
Absolutely. And his response to all these incredibly serious allegations, civil, potentially criminal,
Utter denial, toxic arrogance.
completely. He called his accusers trash, psychopaths, just lies, lies, lies. He genuinely seemed to believe his fame and money made him immune.
And those comments he made to HBO, they were just breathtakingly arrogant.
Oh, astounding. When they asked him why he'd even need to harass women, he boasted, "Why would I have to harass women? People spend $1 million for a drop of my sperm."
I remember that. It was unbelievable.
And claiming 5,000 women a day would line up for him. I mean, apart from being grossly insulting to the victims, it was just terrible PR. It showed this total lack of remorse, this massive narcissism. And that came back to bite him hard when the cases actually went to trial. It really helped convince juries he acted with malice.
And the incredible irony here is that the person who finally landed a major legal blow, financially at least, wasn't one of the students he abused, but his own head of legal, Meenakshi Jaffa Bodin.
Mickey. Yeah, Mickey Jaffa Bodin. She was an internationally trained lawyer, came from India, joined his organization in 2011, and she apparently saw it as this huge career move, her forever job. Believed in the yoga initially.
Her role was to bring some order to the chaos, right? Professionalize the business.
Exactly, which put her on a collision course with Bikram's style almost immediately. She got thrown in the deep end.
Realizing just how messy and reckless the whole empire was.
Right away, she saw massive operational dysfunction. His personal money and the company money were totally mixed up. Commingled is the term. He just treated the business account like his own wallet.
So she's dealing with creditors from day one.
Yeah, her first big job was apparently dealing with a huge unpaid hotel bill, like $1.8 million owed to Marriott. So she had this incredibly close view of his finances, his legal issues, and crucially, his behavior.
So she was both trying to defend him legally while also seeing and maybe experiencing his awful conduct towards women and minorities firsthand.
That inside knowledge was key. And the thing that really sparked her own legal fight was that Pandora Williams' discrimination case landing on her desk. She had to manage the fallout from his racist, homophobic rant.
And when she tried to handle it professionally like a lawyer would,
He blew up. He was totally unremorseful, didn't take the lawsuit seriously at all. He didn't see her as his head of legal. He saw her as, well, a woman employee who should just do what he said.
reflecting his misogyny.
Yeah, he told her she was stupid and too westernized for questioning him. And he actually said to her face, "I am a god who could do whatever he wanted."
Just unbelievable. So the tension between her professional duty and his god complex just kept building. How did he try to control her specifically?
He held all the cards over her life, basically. Her job, her visa status. He reportedly monitored her phone calls, threatened to get her deported back to India if she didn't play ball, held back paychecks, making her totally dependent on him for rent, her car, just living in the U.S.
And he tried to get her to obstruct justice?
Yes, she said he told her to go and shut up witnesses who were making sexual misconduct claims. There's this chilling story where she showed him a Facebook message about an alleged assault attempt in Hawaii, and he just said, "I thought we'd taken care of that BH in Hawaii."
Wow, so he's bragging about it.
Yeah, bragging about the chaos, even mocking her publicly from the stage after she warned him about inviting trainees to his bedroom. He announced he'd have 2 girls in his room now. Just pure contempt for her, for the law, for the victims.
So the breaking point finally came when her legal duties directly threatened him.
That was it. February 2013, she gets subpoenaed to testify in the Pandora Williams case. For Bikram, this was a disaster. His own lawyer potentially testifying against him.
He must have gone ballistic.
Yeah, the sources say he went crazy. And in March 2013, just after the subpoena, he fired her, abruptly terminated her contract.
And shortly after she was fired, things escalated into a terrifying physical confrontation.
According to her account, yes. She tried to meet with him to discuss her termination, her visa situation. They met in his fancy hotel suite. She says he locked the door, got physically aggressive, tried to assault her, tearing her clothes, trying to strip her.
Oh my God.
She described fighting back, fiercely kicking, biting him to get out of that locked room. She fled, left her shoes behind, and immediately called her own lawyer.
So in that moment, she goes from being his lawyer and a victim of his harassment to being his legal opponent, with all that inside knowledge.
Exactly. She sued him. Unlawful dismissal, sexual harassment, assault. And her lawsuit was devastating because she knew where all the bodies were buried, so to speak. The messy finances, the coercion.
And the trial itself brought out some pretty damning evidence, right? Those deposition tapes?
Oh yeah, the tapes from his 2015 deposition were played for the jury. Just showed his vulgarity, his narcissism, in his own words. That infamous line about the only things he dislikes being cold weather, cold food, cold hearts, and cold pie.
Just crass.
Totally. And that, combined with testimony from other former employees, really painted a picture of systematic malice.
Like Sharon Clerkin, the Irish woman who used to work for him. What did she add?
Clerkin testified about his constant casual abuse, calling women britches. And incredibly, she said he actually bragged about the sexual assault allegations. Claimed they were good for business because they made him seem powerful, desirable.
Wow. All of this led to a really decisive verdict for Jaffa Bowden, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. January 25th, 2016, the first verdict comes in. Just under $925,000 in compensatory damages for her losses. But the next day, the jury delivered the real message.
The punitive damages.
Exactly, another $6.4 million in punitive damages.
Which are specifically meant to punish the defendant for outrageous behavior, right? Not just compensate the victim.
Precisely. The jury found he acted with malice, oppression, and fraud. So the total judgment was around $7.3 million, although you see slightly different numbers like $6.8 or $7 million reported later. It was a huge legal victory, a clear statement from the justice system. But getting the money was another story entirely.
Right. A $7 million judgment is one thing. Collecting it from someone determined to disappear is another. And Bikram executed a pretty classic evasion strategy.
Textbook. Right around May 2016, just as that judgment was being finalized, making the debt real, he bolts, flees the United States.
So he was going to India to look at schools or something.
Yeah, but his lawyer pretty quickly confirmed he wasn't coming back. Ever. He was officially on the run from the civil judgment.
And before he left, he made a very strategic move with his assets, involving his wife, Rajashri.
This is really crucial. His divorce from Rajashri, who'd been involved in the business for years, was finalized in May 2016, right around the time he fled. And the settlement was very convenient for him.
How so?
She got awarded the really valuable stuff, the houses in Beverly Hills, LA, some of the luxury cars.
And the fine print in that divorce decree was key, wasn't it? Protecting her from his debts.
Absolutely. There was a clause that basically indemnified her, meaning it shielded her from financial responsibility for his lawsuits, pending or future. So, if Jaffa Bowden's lawyers came looking for that $7 million...
Those assets, the houses, the cars she now owned, were legally protected from his debt?
Pretty much. He'd effectively moved ownership to someone shielded from his creditors, leaving his own accounts looking pretty empty when they tried to collect.
So he's out of the country, the money's been shuffled around, a judge declares him a fugitive.
Yeah, an arrest warrant gets issued in May 2017. Bail set at $8 million. Because he fled without paying the civil debt. So for Jaffa Bowden's team, the fight shifts. It's not about winning in court anymore. It's about becoming asset hunters, trying to track down his missing fortune.
And the most obvious target was that fleet of luxury cars, his big symbol of arrogance. Did they find them?
They found some of them. Her investigators were incredibly persistent. They discovered that 22 of his best cars were Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, even a rare 1969 Marina GT hadn't vanished entirely. They'd been secretly shipped across the country.
From California to...
To a random warehouse in Miami.
Like something out of a movie, a hidden stash of supercars.
It really was. A huge find for the asset recovery. The Department of Justice got involved, appointed a trustee. Those 22 cars were seized and ordered to be auctioned off.
A victory for Jaffa Bowden, at least partially.
A tangible victory, yeah. But the money reality was still harsh.
Because 22 cars, even fancy ones, wouldn't cover $7 million.
Not even close. The auction was expected to bring in maybe just over $1 million, a fraction of what he owed her. And remember, that was only about half his known car collection. The rest of the cars, the rest of the money, vanished. Hidden through trusts, the divorce. He successfully sheltered most of it.
But even though he evaded U.S. justice, he didn't entirely escape consequences abroad, did he? There was that incident in Mexico in 2020.
Oh, the ultimate irony. He's still running teacher trainings, right?
Yeah.
But only in places without extradition treaties with the U.S., like Spain, Mexico. But even in Acapulco, his old habits caught up with him.
What happened?
He ran up a massive hotel bill, like $180,000 at this luxury place, the Princess Mundo Imperial Hotel, and didn't pay it.
Wait, so the guy who fled a $7 million U.S. judgment gets trapped in Mexico over an unpaid hotel bill.
Essentially, yeah. The hotel apparently seized his passport because of the debt. So there it was, a fugitive from U.S. justice, now kind of a prisoner of his own inability to pay his hotel tab. Yeah. The untouchable guru reduced to a petty debtor.
And yet, despite the warrants, the public disgrace, that damning 2019 documentary Bikram, Yogi Guru Predator, he's still out there, still operating.
He is. Still running trainings in different countries, tapping into that remaining base of devoted followers, which raises the big question about the brand itself.
Yeah.
How did the wider hot yoga community react to all this?
Well, after the documentary especially, a lot of studios tried to distance themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a big push. Many studios that were licensed under Bikram Yoga started dropping his name, rebranding as just hot yoga or something similar, trying to keep the popular 26 pose sequence, which people clearly found beneficial, but cut the toxic connection to the man himself.
But not all of them.
No, some studios still operate under the Bikram name even today, which shows you how deep that loyalty runs for some and how hard it is to completely untangle the practice from the person who built the empire around it. So, looking at the whole picture, Mickey Jaffa-Bodden's legal win was huge. It provided that public verdict, that accountability on paper. But Bikram's escape, his success in hiding assets, it really shows the limits of civil justice when you're up against immense wealth and, frankly, sheer narcissistic determination. Yeah. He used his fame, his money, his manipulations to basically buy his freedom.
And Jaffa-Bodden herself said her fight wasn't just about the money, it was about accountability, which leaves this huge ongoing question for the whole yoga world, doesn't it? Especially for people who genuinely benefited from those 26 poses.
Yeah, can you ever truly separate the practice, the sequence itself, from the abusive man who packaged and sold it? One studio owner used the phrase, cutting off the rotten branch to save the tree. But what if the tree's whole root system, the money, the marketing, the control, was built on that poison ground of ego and abuse? Is separation really possible?
And Bikram Choudhury, the fugitive, is still out there teaching, still collecting money, still funding his life. So what responsibility do studio owners have towards the victims, towards ethical teaching, when they choose where to practice, who to learn from? That's the really tough ethical question that lingers for anyone stepping onto a mat in a 104-degree room.